Hey, good afternoon. It's Friday, March 19th. It's a beautiful day here in Fairview. I'm enjoying it greatly, but it is an afternoon, and I'd hope to get this done in the morning. Today's devotional is a little different just because of the past circumstances. As anybody, if you guys have been looking forward to devotionals on a regular basis, yesterday I missed it. I was just wiped out from the events of the previous hours, and that's kind of what led me to this. Today's devotional, if I were to title it, you saw the title in the beginning. It's I like big butts, and it's not in a physical sense. It's instead the situation where God steps in. Today's word is out of Genesis chapter 50. It's Genesis 50 verses 19 and 20. It says, "But Joseph said to them," these are his brothers, "Don't be afraid. Am I in the place of God? You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." And as I think about the experience that I've had in the last 36 hours or so, my Thursday or Wednesday was basically just your normal Wednesday. A lot of training throughout the day for the fire department, running some calls that evening, and then I didn't sleep much. I got to bed about 1, back up at 2 for perhaps one of the toughest calls I've ever run, if not the toughest call. And in the line of work that I'm in as a firefighter paramedic, I've seen a lot of death, I've seen a lot of life, I've seen a lot of great things, I've seen a lot of horrific things. But what I witnessed Wednesday night it grieved my heart. I can't go into any details other than what the news has put on there, so I want to just, I worked a scene where the suspect is a 23-year-old young man who stabbed his brother and his mother and intended to kill him. And the heartbreaking, there are many more heartbreaking details that went in along that, but you start to question the depravity of mankind, to where a young man would even consider doing such a thing. And my heart was broken. I was torn up after the end of the call. I don't usually get too frustrated or emotional or even broken by calls, but because I feel like I'm there to help the situation. And I had a job to do, and so in the moment I do the job, but at the end of it you're left with this feeling of what just happened here. And if we just remain in that place, my natural instinct was just to sink down into exclusion, just eliminate the rest of the world from my head and just try to retreat. If we do that, that's what leads to our own demise. What came out of that experience for me, I had a business meeting set up the next morning, and I just wanted to blow it off. Instead, I followed through with it, and following through, what happened was just an absolute beautiful ministry experience. I mean, it just was one of those where God steps in, and God reminded you. He used a circumstance that instead of letting me just retreat, because I chose to engage and continue to engage with the world instead of, so I'm speaking to you, and this is just coming fresh, but those of you that's been in relationships and you've been repeatedly hurt, instead of retreating into only trying to love yourself and the whole concept of that, we have to continue to engage in the world around us. Now, we can put up respectful boundaries, and we can put up we can renew our mind through Christ's process, of implanting the Word into us so that we're involved in more healthy situations or more healthy relationships. But we must continue to engage. What you see here in the story in Genesis chapter 50, Joseph, if you remember, he had a coat of many colors that was made for him. I mean, it was more beautiful than anyone else had seen. Joseph had his father loved him tremendously. His brothers were jealous, and so they tricked him and threw him down into a pit and sold him into slavery to the Egyptians. And so Joseph remained in slavery, and then through interpretation of dreams and God's purpose, Joseph was brought to be one of the most powerful men in all of Egypt. And when the famine hit the land, the father and the brothers had to go to look for some help. And God had put Joseph in this position, and here all of a sudden his brothers are right in front of him. The very same brothers that had tricked him, thrown him into a pit, had tried to kill him, had sold him into slavery. I mean, just the horrific experience of a family life that Joseph had to have had, and then to be alienated and just made a slave to the Egyptians. But God worked all of those things, and there's no way Joseph could have seen it all coming. But he continued to engage. He continued to worship his God. And in that, God's redemptive quality stepped in. This world's an ugly place at times. There's a lot of messed up things that go on. But God can work all those things to our good. It's just like Jesus said, with man this is impossible, but with God all things are possible. We have to remember that we don't operate by the same mindset that the rest of the world does, and that's what gives us our strength and encouragement. That's what gets me through the horrific stuff that I see every now and then. I want to encourage you today that if you found yourself retreating away from relationships, if you found yourself retreating away from God, and you just happen to flip onto this video, that's not God's purpose for our lives. God wants us to be in healthy relationships with others around us. God wants us first and foremost to be in a healthy, strong, committed relationship with Him. The Song of Solomon in the Old Testament is nothing but a book between God and us as lovers, the intimacy of relationship that He chooses to have with us, that He desires to have with us. And He gave us that same relationship here on earth through husband and wife and family so that we can experience that intimacy here. It's man that fouls it up. And I want to encourage you, don't give up. Continue to engage. Live the abundant life that God has called you to live. It's a beautiful thing, and it surpasses even our own understanding of why is this happening. Stop asking why and just start asking what? What am I supposed to do here, God? And look to His Word for His answers. Y'all have a blessed day. Live the life. If you want a little bit different devotional, go to rallythetroops.org for today's devotional. You can find it. It's I like big butts. And it is a beautiful thing when God steps in. Have a great day. Be blessed.